Thank you so much for joining me. I hope today's deep journey into the Great Gatsby will enlighten, provoke, and stay with you long after you finish listening. Imagine stepping into 1920s Long Island, feeling the heat of summer, hearing the laughter at Gatsby's parties, sensing the tension under polite social facades. That vivid world is our stage, and today we explore every lesson, every nuance, every revelation that Scott Fitzgerald packed into his masterpiece. We begin by immersing ourselves in the life of Gatsby, or rather James Gatsby before he reinvented himself. One of the first lessons is about identity and reinvention. Gatsby's self-made persona shows the power and danger of reinventing who you are. He starts poor, ambitious, dreaming of more, and gradually crafts a persona of wealth, elegance, and mystery. But the lesson here is subtle. While self-reinvention can propel us forward, it can also trap us in illusion. Gatsby never fully becomes James Gatsby again, yet he never truly escapes the longing, the insecurity, the yearning that made him chase wealth and status. He is caught between the real and the ideal. And that tension is something many of us carry. We create versions of ourselves we hope others will love, yet those versions may beg a price from our souls. Then, there's the theme of dreams and illusion. Gatsby's dream is not just to win Daisy's love, but to recapture a moment in time, to restore the past. Fitzgerald shows us that dreams are fragile, and when we anchor them in illusions or idealized memories, they become brittle, ready to shatter with the slightest reality. Gatsby believed he could recreate the past and start anew. But life, time, human nature, and consequences follow different rules. The lesson: dreams must be grounded in truth, not fantasy, or they risk collapsing. And often what we remember is more idealized than it ever was. Fitzgerald also interrogates the American dream. In the Roaring '20s, America was a land of promise, prosperity, reinvention. But in The Great Gatsby, that dream becomes warped by money, excess, and ego. Gatsby attains wealth, but not acceptance. He throws extravagant parties, but finds loneliness. He chases Daisy, but chases a myth more than a person. The novel reveals that when the American dream becomes a pursuit of status, consumption, and surface luxury, it loses its soul. We learn that true success demands more than accumulation. It demands purpose, integrity, connection. The book warns, a dream corrupted by materialism is hollow at its heart. As we walk through Daisy Buchanan's world, we see another lesson. Beauty can be deadly. Daisy is luminous, charming, enchanting. But the glow masks shallowness, insecurity, and factional constraint. She is at once victim and perpetrator, a woman tied to social expectations, yet complicit in the careless harm she causes. We learn that beauty, charm, and allure can be seductive weapons, and sometimes the people we idealize carry shadows we never suspect. Nick Carraway, our narrator, offers perhaps the most understated but powerful lesson: the virtue of attentiveness and restraint. He watches, listens, judges, but with moderation. His vantage point allows us to see all sides. Through Nick, Fitzgerald teaches that to understand life and people, we must cultivate honesty, reflection, and quiet moral judgment. Nick's integrity is not flawless, but his humility and insight serve as a model for readers: to observe without rushing to condemnation, to feel without becoming complicit, and to retain moral clarity amid temptation and confusion. Another major lesson concerns social class and division. Despite Gatsby's wealth, he is never fully accepted by East Egg society. Tom, Daisy, Jordan, they occupy old money, with social codes and unspoken rules Gatsby can't breach. Fitzgerald draws a barrier between those born into privilege and those who aspire to it. We absorb the truth. Money can open doors, but social and cultural capital often has boundaries that money alone cannot pierce. The lesson here is about real belonging. External success isn't enough if the internal or communal handshake never comes. We also see the corrupting effect of obsession. Gatsby is obsessed with Daisy, with his version of their future. That obsession warps his judgment, blinds him to Daisy's flaws, and brings inevitable tragedy. In this obsession lies a general human truth. When we fixate on a singular goal, relationship, or identity, we risk losing perspective, empathy, balance, and sometimes ourselves. We learn to watch our obsessions, question them, and guard against losing our humanity. Fitzgerald doesn't shy from moral ambiguity. Many characters are flawed: Tom, Daisy, Jordan, Myrtle, but he doesn't reduce them to caricatures. We learn that people are messy, contradictory, hopeful, selfish. The novel teaches us that moral clarity is rare in life. Often we must navigate gray zones, forgive complexity, and acknowledge our own contradictions. This deep acceptance of human imperfection is a mature lesson: to condemn less, understand more, and hold ourselves accountable while granting space for error. Tragedy and loss flow through the novel's veins. Gatsby's dreams collapse. Myrtle is killed. George Wilson dies. The lesson is that life is fragile, unpredictable, unforgiving. We learn to treasure what we have, nurture what matters, and understand that our actions ripple in ways we might never see. The narrative reminds us: heartbreak is real, consequences matter, and illusions do not protect us from sorrow. The power of memory also emerges as a central motif. Gatsby clings to memory as a beacon to guide him, hoping to restore it. But Fitzgerald suggests memory itself transforms over time. What we recall is shaped by desire, guilt, need. We learn that memory can motivate us, haunt us, mislead us. The lesson: honor memory, but don't let it imprison your present potential. In exploring love, Fitzgerald reveals its complexity. Gatsby's love is grand, dramatic, yearning. Daisy's love is frightened, fickle, constrained. The novel teaches that love is not simple billing but messy, contingent, often compromised by fear, social pressures, personal history. Real love requires sacrifice, humility, acceptance of imperfection. If we idealize love as perfection, we may set ourselves, and others, on a collision course with disillusionment. Another subtle but profound lesson is about silence and unspoken words. Much of the novel's tension lies in what is left unsaid: Daisy's regrets, Tom's desires, Gatsby's inner doubts. Sometimes what characters fail to communicate or choose not to becomes more powerful than what they do say. We learn that silence is meaningful, that we must attend to subtext in life, and that honesty often demands courage, not just speech, but confession, vulnerability. Fitzgerald also knits in social critique: the hollowness of the jazz age, the decay under glitter. Behind the parties, the dancing, the champagne, there's moral emptiness, superficial relationships, exploitation. We see that societies that prize spectacle over substance, pleasure over purpose, are doomed to hollow lives. The lesson: culture shapes us, and we must resist the seduction of surface glamour in favor of deeper values. Another lesson lies in the role of hope and its limits. Gatsby hopes eternally. Hope drives him, sustains him, defines him. Yet hope alone isn't enough. Without adaptability, self-awareness, groundedness, hope may blind rather than enlarge. Fitzgerald reminds us that we need resilience, wisdom, and awareness to complement hope. We also glean insight about control and power. Tom wields his money, influence, and social authority. George Wilson has none. Gatsby acquires power through wealth, but not social legitimacy. Daisy wields emotional power over men. The lesson: power is multifaceted, economic, cultural, emotional, and those who lack one form may wield another. Understanding power dynamics in relationships, institutions, society is essential for navigating life with awareness. The novel offers lessons about moral failure and accountability. Many characters cause harm but evade responsibility. Tom drives recklessly. Daisy enables. George loses himself. Gatsby's own ways of acquiring wealth are shady. We learn that accountability must be personal, not avoided. We confront the human temptation to shift blame, hide, pretend innocence, and Fitzgerald forces us to reckon with responsibility. As we wade into the symbolic elements, we uncover lessons about the green light, the valley of ashes, the eyes of Dr. T. J. Eckelberg. The green light represents hope, the future, unattainable dreams. The valley of ashes symbolizes moral decay and social neglect. The eyes of Eckelberg stand as a silent god, a moral witness to human folly. The lesson: symbols enrich our lives. They make us see beneath the surface. In our own lives, noticing symbols, patterns, recurring imagery can deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world. In exploring setting and context, we learn that time, place, and historical era shape characters. The decadence of the 20s, the social stratification, the post-war disillusionment. All these contextual facts teach us that the trajectory of individuals is entangled with historical forces. The lesson: we must read lives in context, not isolation. Fitzgerald's style, his lush imagery, lyrical prose, subtle irony, teaches us about language itself. He shows how a few evocative details, a single line about a shirt, or a shimmering pool, can evoke emotion, character, setting. The lesson: careful language matters. In our communication, writing, speech, narrative, we learn to trust metaphor, understatement, sensory detail, ambiguity. We also learn about narrative perspective. Because the story is filtered through Nick's eyes, we see his biases, his limitations. The lesson: every narrator is partial, every story has a frame. In our lives and in our societies, understanding perspective matters. To see another's vantage, to read with skepticism, to differentiate fact from interpretation, these are essential skills. As we move through characters' arcs, we recognize the tragedy of wasted potential. Gatsby had zeal, vision, hope, but his life ends wasted, his resources lost. The lesson: gifts and opportunities demand disciplined stewardship. Talent without wisdom may falter. Ambition without grounding may collapse. The role of social connections reveals another lesson. Gatsby throws parties expecting invitations, connecting social circles he hopes will bring Daisy within reach. But authentic relationships elude him. We learn, networking without sincerity is hollow. Authentic bonds are more than proximity. They require trust, mutual vulnerability, shared values. In examining moral emptiness, we see that many characters act with carelessness. They destroy others' lives, leave, vanish. Their indifference is perhaps the cruelest sin. Fitzgerald teaches that compassion matters, that our actions, even those we think inconsequential, carry weight. The lesson: don't live carelessly. Remember that other lives touch yours in invisible ways. Another lesson concerns the cost of passivity. Nick occasionally steps back, observes, even judges, but he rarely intervenes powerfully. There is a tension between witnessing and acting. Might Nick have changed outcomes if more assertive? The novel suggests that silence or passivity in the face of wrongdoing is complicit. In our lives, the lesson is to find courage to act, not just narrate. We also derive lessons about dreams lost and disillusionment. Many characters have dreams: Myrtle, George, Nick himself, and many dreams crumble. The pain of disillusionment, the shock of reality, the mourning of possibility. These are universal human experiences. Fitzgerald helps us feel that pain and understand that we must learn to rebuild, reimagine, adapt. We can extract lessons about fatalism and inevitability. Some events seem fated: Gatsby's death, the collisions, the betrayals. There's a sense that characters are pulled by forces beyond their control, social forces, psychological forces, moral forces. The lesson: we live amid forces larger than we see. Humility demands we recognize our limits, our vulnerabilities, and resist illusions of total control. As we go deeper, we encounter psychological insight. Gatsby's longing, Daisy's ambivalence, Tom's aggression, George's despair, all portray inner lives. Fitzgerald knows that external glamour hides internal chaos. The lesson: to understand others, look for contradictions, silences, don't trust the surface alone. Empathy involves reading what's hidden, not just what's shown. We also see how Fitzgerald handles irony and tragedy. The book is tragic, yet rich in ironic juxtaposition. Gatsby's parties, his tragedy, Daisy's voice, the geometry of West Egg and East Egg. The lesson: life is rarely straightforward. Tragedy often wears the mask of normalcy. To read wisely is to detect irony, paradox, ambiguity. Another lesson is about legacy and memory. Gatsby strives to leave a mark, to be remembered. But after his death, nearly everyone forgets, misremembers, or misunderstands him. The lesson: our attempts at legacy are fragile. What others remember may not be what we hoped. We learn humility. We plant seeds, but we cannot demand they grow or endure. We also see the theme of loneliness. Gatsby among crowds, Daisy in her elegant home, George in his gloom, they all suffer isolation. The lesson: wealth, popularity, status can't substitute for connection. Genuine human experience needs someone who sees you. Solitude is often silent tragedy if unchecked by empathy. Through the novel, we learn about fear and risk. Gatsby risks everything: his safety, his reputation, his heart, for a dream. Daisy risks little. The lesson: meaningful life demands risk. But blind risk without strategy can kill dreams. The balance: courageous risk, tempered with foresight, humility, reflection. We also learn about the destructive potential of envy and comparison. Gatsby envies Tom's social standing, Daisy's ease. Others envy Gatsby's parties, mystique. Comparison breeds resentment, dissatisfaction. The lesson: resist comparing your inside to others' outside. Cultivate your own measure of success and peace. As the story unfolds, we understand that tragedy sometimes arises not from evil, but from error, from hubris, from misjudgment. Gatsby is neither villain nor saint. He errs in judgment, overreaches, misplaces faith. The lesson: personal tragedy can come from misperception, not malice. Understanding that helps us with compassion for ourselves and others. We also get lessons about communication and miscommunication. So much in the novel hinges on what is said and unsaid, rumors, innuendos, assumptions. Misread motivations, silent resentments, hidden desires. They drive fate. The lesson: clarity matters. Don't assume others know your motives. Be as honest as circumstance allows. Check assumptions. Another lesson concerns the restlessness of youth and the collision with age or experience. Gatsby's youthful idealism clashes with the pragmatic, jaded attitudes of Tom, Jordan, Daisy. The lesson: growing up often means tempering ideals with wisdom, but not losing them entirely. To mature is not to abandon vision, but to refine it. We see that Fitzgerald uses contrast as moral and aesthetic device. Dreams versus reality, wealth versus decay, youth versus age. The lesson: in life and in art, contrast helps us see more clearly. Recognizing juxtaposition in our choices can sharpen insight. We also understand the cyclical nature of desire and disappointment. Gatsby desires, reaches, loses, desires again. Disappointment infects everyone. The lesson: life is rhythmic, repetition is natural, but growth demands we learn between cycles, not just repeat. Break destructive loops, reinvent wisely. As we near the end, we must confront the tragedy of wasted lives. Gatsby dies empty-handed. Myrtle dies in a senseless accident. George loses everything. Daisy and Tom move on. The lesson: life can be unjust. Tragedy doesn't always reward virtue. This harsh truth challenges us. We must live meaningfully despite the lack of cosmic fairness. Human dignity arises in struggle, not in guaranteed reward. We also glean a lesson about courage and grief. Nick arranges Gatsby's funeral, tends to his affairs when no one else will. His small acts of decency shine in the darkness. We learn the power of small kindnesses, of courage that doesn't make headlines but matters deeply. Finally, we come to reconciliation of dreams, memory, self. Gatsby's green light continues to shine across the water. Nick returns to the Midwest, reflecting on dreams, illusions, moral responsibility. The lesson: life's meaning often lies not in redemption or perfect endings, but in reflection, growth, and a willingness to live sincerely going forward. And so, dear listener, these are the many lessons, truths, facts, insights, tragedies, and resonant symbols interwoven through The Great Gatsby, a literary landscape that teaches us about identity and illusion, love and longing, integrity and moral decay, memory and hope, failure and accountability, vision and collapse. May you carry these insights into your own life, aware of your aspirations and illusions, mindful of your responsibility and connections, and alive to the beauty and danger of dreaming. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like, share, and comment your biggest takeaway. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope these words stay with you as you turn to your next reading journey.